Welcome to another episode of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, live from Taiwan, Sean Newton. What's going on, bro?
Not much, brother. How are you?
Hang in there, man. Hang in there. For those who are new to the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, the Pound for Pound Boxing Report is a live YouTube show /blog/podcast that discusses all things boxing. The motto is, when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When boxing is bad, we will talk about it. The bottom line is, if it concerns boxing, we will talk about it. If you want to find information about the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, please go to the blog page, P4P Boxing Report.wordpress.com, where you can find articles not only written by yours truly, but also articles written by Gail Falkenthal and Kayla Lewis, KBC Live on YouTube and G+. You look to the right of the page. On the right of the page, you'll find links to find us all over social media, all over the interwebs. The two pages on G+, the Facebook page, the Tumblr page, the Pinterest board, the RSS feed where you can subscribe to and listen to the show, the YouTube channel, the Twitter handle, is at P4P Boxing Report. Also linked to the Podomatic page where you can find all previous episodes of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report podcast. Linked on Stitcher Radio. Please check us out on Stitcher Radio. Just go to StitcherRadio.com. You just look up Pound for Pound Boxing Report. That's POUND, the number 4. POUND Boxing Report. Check us out on Stitcher Radio. And be sure to write a review, what we're doing right with the show, as well as how we can improve the show. Got the link for the email address, P4PBoxingRPT@gmail.com. And lastly, link where you can donate to a Twitter account. The link for that is donatetoaccount.com/P4P Boxing Report. What happens is any tweet that comes from the Pound for Pound Boxing Report Twitter page, or should you donate your Twitter account, any tweet that comes from the Pound for Pound Boxing Report Twitter page, well, your Twitter account would automatically have the ability to retweet any tweet that comes from the Pound for Pound Boxing Report Twitter page. With those matters out the way, let's get the show started tonight. Doing a recap of what went down last week. Main fight that went down last week was the bout for the vacant IBF Super Middleweight title that was stripped from Carl Froch as James DeGale fought Andre Dirrell for that vacant title last Saturday in Boston, PBC on NBC card. DeGale winning a 12-round unanimous decision. Scores 117-109 on one card, 114-112 on the two other scorecards. For me, Sean, Dirrell, he was setting the pace in the first round. I had him win in the first round. Also had him win in the second round, but things changed. 25 seconds to go in the round when DeGale caught Dirrell with a left hand, put him down for a second time before the round ended. And from that point on, Sean, in my opinion, Dirrell was always fighting from behind. The fight was close, in my opinion. I had DeGale winning by 3 points. Then 2 knockdowns were the main difference. I had him winning rounds 2, 3, 4, 5. But starting in rounds 6 and 7, I don't know what happened to DeGale. I don't know if he just became complacent, got comfortable with the knockdown. Did he get tired? Did he just mentally have a lapse and just lost his way? But he let Dirrell get into the fight. Dirrell started to establish the jab, started throwing combinations to the head and body, while DeGale, he seemed to look for one punch at a time. And from round like 6, 7, all the way to round 10, Dirrell was winning the fight. But to DeGale's credit, I had him win the last 2 rounds that ultimately proved the difference. Your thoughts on the fight? I thought it was a very good fight, very competitive, back and forth bout. Your thoughts on DeGale's win over Andre Dirrell?
Yeah, I mean, it was a good fight. I wasn't surprised DeGale won. I had him winning. I just think he had been more active and had been fighting a higher level of competition up to this point. You know, since the Super 6, I mean, Dirrell got hurt against Abraham. He had a long layoff, and he's come back and fought a couple of mediocre fighters and looked pretty, you know, I mean, explosive and fast and strong, but really a little one-handed and one-dimensional. So I didn't think he would have enough to beat DeGale, who I thought really at this point was sort of primed. And he showed that, I mean, he's got a lot of tools. And, you know, the only rounds I really think that Dirrell won clearly were 7, 8, 9, and 10. I mean, and then after that, you know, maybe you could give him another 2 rounds, maybe the first. It was a pretty close round. And then maybe the 5th. But either way. I mean, those 2 rounds were close and could have went either way. So I could have saw it 8-4 for DeGale, or you could have it 6-6 for Dirrell, but, you know, including the 2 knockdowns, which, I mean, clearly make it obvious who won the fight. I know there's some people out there that think Dirrell won, but a lot of the work Dirrell did, even in those prime rounds, I mean, a lot of shoe shining, combination punching, but I mean, not too many punches were getting through. I mean, most were just being eaten up on the arms and off the gloves. I mean, the guy that was landing most of the clean shots was DeGale. He was dictating the pace of the fight throughout. Even when Dirrell had his 4 strong rounds, it's like you say, mostly because of lack of effort on DeGale's part. And if you listen to a lot of commentators, you know, especially UK people who are more familiar with DeGale, they will say that he can tend to be passive at times and fight like that. They say that's one of the reasons he lost to Groves initially, because he just wasn't aggressive as he should have been. So maybe it's just his makeup. He sort of, I don't think he was tired, because, I mean, he never looked tired. He just looked like he was seeing what Dirrell had and playing safe and just using distance. Like Sugar Ray Leonard on one broadcast was talking about how he was dictating the pace by, even when he wasn't throwing punches, but by using distance and footwork and movement just to frustrate and, you know, and control sort of the whole tempo. And you could see that that was true, because at one point during the fight, I mean, Dirrell was really pissed off, started like screaming, you know, stuff at him, and like you could see, even though he's being effective, he didn't feel he was being effective, because he obviously was like taunting the guy and trying to like get a reaction.
Let's move on and talk about the future for both DeGale and Dirrell, starting with DeGale first. There's the possibility, you know, the reason he got the opportunity was because, quite frankly, Carl Froch didn't want to fight him at this particular time. He was seeking bigger bouts for more money. So this was for his, the belt that was vacated by Froch was actually stripped from him. The talk is of him maybe fighting Froch, fighting a kind of grudge match against George Groves. Should Groves win his upcoming title bout against, oh gosh, help me out, Sean, his name slips my mind. The guy who just won the belt, beating Dirrell's younger brother.
The Swedish guy from Team Mayweather. Not Love, but yeah, I have the same problem. I never can remember his name.
Give me a quick second. Oh shoot. Badu Jack, that's his name, Badu Jack. Groves and Badu Jack have signed to fight each other, and should Groves win, it looks like it may be a fight between those two in 2016. I like EJ Boxing Live, his notion, his thought process of him possibly fighting in Abraham. He could win that fight, and the fight is in Germany. He could make some money. DeGale also topped Andre Ward and all the other fights, but I just don't see that happening. He was just excited and hyped up. But the fight for me is a fight with Groves, or even a possible fight with Froch down the road. What do you see upcoming for DeGale, and how big of a fighter? How big of a star do you think he has star potential? Put it that way, based not only on the way he fights. But let's face it, he's pretty good behind the mic.
Yeah, no, I mean, he gets riled up, right? That was the big selling point against him and Groves. He was the black hat in that fight, right? You know, really turning a lot of people, even though he was the guy with the Olympic pedigree and everything else. So, I mean, that goes to his advantage. I mean, him and Tyson Fury, they can sell a fight just by turning people against them, which we know with Floyd, I mean, it sells. So, I mean, you might as well use it, because, I mean, everybody's in it for the money.
Right.
You know, I think obviously the most likely fight would be him against Groves, which would be a huge rematch in the UK. You know, they're both really comfortable because they'd be in their backyard. He just fought in the States to win the belt. And, you know, I mean, people don't give him credit for that as much as they should. I mean, he did have to go there on Al Haymon's card and take it away from an Al Haymon fighter. And, you know, even a rematch people were talking about, and I'm like, that's fine too. You know, get Dirrell to go over to the UK. I mean, because we're not sure how Groves' fight's going to pan out. I mean, we were all underestimating Badou Jack after he got KO'd so quickly, but he showed that he has skills and he is able to like stick to a game plan. So it's possible that he beats Groves. And so even down the road, maybe that's a possibility, because I know that those two promoters work together, so it should be easy enough to set up as well. And I mean, obviously the Ward fight, I mean, Ward isn't going to be fighting anybody of his level or GGG's level for a while, probably not till 2016, so there's no point jumping on that train right now. But for him, it's more of a chance to solidify his name, become more of the A side so that he can get guys to go over to the UK to try to get his belt. And I mean, I don't think Froch is going to take that fight. You know, people can rip Froch, but I mean, he fought Groves, who was like the young up-and-comer, and had 2 great fights with him, and now it looks like he's just looking for that one big payday before he sort of retires. I mean, you know, you can sort of see that he's not so motivated anymore. So fighting a guy like DeGale, tough, long, probably not the most attractive fight.
What about Andre Dirrell? For me, he performed well enough where he deserves another big fight, another championship fight. But the question is, who's going to step up and give him? Will he get the opportunity? Let me put it that way. I don't see a Ward fighting him. Badou Jack possibly if he beats Groves. I don't see a rematch right now with DeGale. DeGale has bigger fish to fry, if you will. The future of Andre Dirrell, where do you see him going?
Well, Dirrell, I mean, if Badou Jack beats Groves, I mean, there's the natural fight right there. Dirrell against Badou Jack. I mean,
both signed Al Haymon, I believe. So
I mean, that fight will be like easy to set up. And I mean, you said you don't see him fighting a Ward, but Ward is coming back, and he needs a name and a guy who's going to fight in Oakland. So we know Dirrell would do that as well. So I mean, it's more possible now than it ever has been. And I mean, Dirrell showed that he can be hurt, and he showed that, you know, I mean, he's a competitive fighter, but I don't think he's at the level he was when he was in the Super 6. During the Super 6, he was my pick to win it all. I was disappointed when, after the Abraham Hole fiasco, and then he wasn't able to sort of finish and go against Ward, which was what I was sort of looking forward to. So I don't think he's the same caliber of fighter now. So I mean, a guy like Ward, for him, it's a big name on a resume. It's a domestic fight. So that makes sense too, especially if he wins the title off of Badou Jack.
Let's move forward. Let's move on to a couple of fights that took place in Russia. The main event of the card in Moscow, Alex Povetkin destroying Mike Perez in 91 seconds in a title eliminator. Povetkin is now in line to face WBC Heavyweight Champion Deontay Wilder with this performance. Povetkin looked like I don't know if this was a case of Povetkin just looking like a complete force, or was it the fact that Mike Perez mentally wasn't there? I think it's a little bit of both. I don't think Mike Perez has been the same ever since that fight against the Russian fighter who unfortunately went into a coma. But to Povetkin's credit, he just looked different to me. I mean, he basically took him apart with 3 punches. Counter right hand, counter left hook, I believe it was. A right hand that shook him up and put him down, and then he stalked him down and put him down with another right hand. I'm thinking Teddy Atlas was looking at this fight. How come he didn't look that good when I was training him? And I want to say what you need to join us live right now from Trinidad. What's going on, bro? I go back to you, Sean. Your analysis, your thoughts on Povetkin's destruction and dominant performance over Mike Perez.
You know, I don't like really taking away from his performance by like saying Perez was not prepared. I mean, Perez is Perez. I mean, he's a quality heavyweight, but a small heavyweight. You know, looked like he was in really good shape in this fight. When I saw him at the weigh-in, I was thinking he was ripped and looked really ready to go. But
yeah, excuse me for interrupting, but yeah, his body looked he looked he looked in better condition. He looked more muscular. He looked more defined in his physique. He must have some a new strength and training a strength and training guy with him, strength and conditioning guy with him, because physically he looked different than I've seen him at any point during his career.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, he fought Jennings and he looked good early, right? But then he sort of gassed out. And I think for this fight he came in better shape, ready to do more. But, you know, he is a small heavyweight, and Povetkin looked real big. I mean, when they were standing beside each other, it was really eye-opening to see what a small heavyweight he was. And I mean, his strength he was going to use was quickness and, you know, that Cuban style, being a good boxer and being able to pick his spots and dictate things. But having that low hand didn't help him because he got caught quick. Povetkin looked clinical and effective, and obviously his punching power is legit, because it didn't take much to put that guy right out on first. The fight was basically over after the first punch connected.
I'm gonna go back to you about the Povetkin fight and look at the future, his prospects of him defeating a Deontay Wilder. But Jay Dale is joining us live right now, and as well as what you need. Unmute your mic. What you need. What you need. Unmute your mic. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go to you. Then I'm gonna go to Jay Dale. I'm gonna go back and talk about and ask you about the DeGale win over Dirrell. Your thoughts on DeGale's win over Andre Dirrell. First, what you need, and then you, Jay Dale.
All right. Good night, everyone. It was a great win, man. It was a fantastic win. It's a fantastic win. I think that those two knockdowns made a big difference. I was listening to, I think it was Farron Spence from the UK, Sky Sports announcer, and he was saying that you know, he set him up with the straight right to the body, and then he came over the top of to the head, and that really made the difference. He set him up for that shot. Just to kind of run it down very quickly, Dirrell dominated. Well, didn't dominate, but he won the first round in my opinion. You know, he was beating up DeGale, and then in round two, he basically was in control of that round, and until DeGale got him with that overhand left hook. Right. I think they were trading hooks. You know, it kind of reminds me a little of what Porky did to J.Leon Love.
J.Leon Love. Okay.
Yes, I think it kind of reminded me of what Porky did to him. Amazingly, Dirrell has a great chin because he took that punch and got up. You know, he was a little buzzed, but he was talking to his corner. He got knocked down a second time. I guess he was still buzzed when he got knocked down. But basically, he went to his corner. He was kind of angry with the second knockdown. He went to his corner, kind of disturbed, because that basically was the fight right there. Nothing else between these two guys. To me, it was equal. It was I had them 6 rounds apiece, and Dirrell was a little bit more cautious going into DeGale. He wasn't just running through him. I think Dirrell's major problem, this is my last point, his major problem was that he underestimated James DeGale. I think he is the more skilled fighter. I think he's the sharper fighter. I think he's the faster fighter. But being 2 points down in the second round, James DeGale having 3 points to 1, you know, or I think it would be 30 to no, not 30. It would be 19 to something like 16, right? Going into the third. So being so far behind, you see, if James DeGale had knocked him down once, if he had dominated the 12th, it could have been a draw, you know. But being so far behind, I think Dirrell was frustrated. He was trying to get a knockdown himself so that he could sort of equal it up and then get the rest of the rounds. So I think at the end of round 11, he realized this wasn't going to happen, and I think he realized, okay, this guy's a worthy opponent. I think he even told James DeGale, I respect you now going into the 12th. So brilliant work by James DeGale. I think he outwitted the overconfident Andre Dirrell. And this is the same thing Anthony Dirrell was guilty of when he fought Badu Jack. Overconfidence. So that when Badu Jack showed him something that he didn't expect, he didn't know how to react to it. So I think that's what happened with the two Dirrell brothers.
Well, let me ask you a follow-up question. Were you a little bit concerned, hindsight, looking back now, at the way DeGale performed in those middle rounds? Because, in my opinion, he kind of let Dirrell back into the fight. He was strangely passive. He didn't throw enough punches, but you know,
Right.
thoughts on during that period for DeGale in the way he performed.
Right. DeGale himself said Dirrell is a very, very good fighter, and he didn't want to take any chances and get knocked out because Dirrell was actually looking to knock him out. And I think DeGale, he said, yeah, I probably did take my foot off the gas, but he said better safe than sorry. And I also think he was gassed a bit. He actually was gassed from expending all that energy in the second, third, fourth, and fifth. He was basically the guy in control of those rounds. In the sixth round, it started to turn, and by the seventh, Andre Dirrell was in control because Andre Dirrell was doubling and tripling that jab. And I think that made a big difference. DeGale couldn't come in how he wanted to. He couldn't ambush Dirrell. Dirrell was a little too smart for him now. He was getting a shot in there, shots in there, and flashy shots as well. But mostly Dirrell was walking him down. Dirrell had turned the fight around. I mean, it's amazing what Dirrell did. I have to say, people say he's, he wasn't mentally tough and all these things, but yeah, he was outwitted by DeGale. But I think he's impressive, man. That man is impressive, and I don't fault DeGale for being very cautious, being very careful. It was a big chess match in there. So yeah.
My mutual Mike Jedell, your thoughts on James DeGale, his win over Andre Dirrell?
This was a tale of well, before I even break down the fight, I want to say what's up to you, pound for pound. What's up to you, Sean, and what's up to you, what you need. Glad to have you guys on the panel. All right, to the fight. This fight was a tale of two halves for me. Like the first half, I felt like Dirrell was trying to control range, try to set up his jab, get his rhythm going, and at times in the beginning he was getting sharp, getting his rhythm. He was starting to locate his jab, but his problem was he has a bad habit of leaving his hands down. And DeGale, like on what you need just said, pretty much set up the right to the body, which is a feint, to throw a over top left. And that's how Marquez set up Pacquiao. That's how Canelo sets up Kirkland. That same type of setup. But I was impressed how Dirrell recovered from that, because that told me what kind of heart he had and what kind of how he prepares when he's hurt. So the third round, he was getting caught with some right hooks, and they were sharp. And that told me, like, oh, if he can take these shots and he can still stand up, that means he could still fight. It wasn't until the fifth round or sixth round, I think, where he started to get confident again, to start throwing combinations and switch his style and go to orthodox to start banging with DeGale. And I think some of those body shots, some of them jabs was keeping DeGale at bay and keep him honest. And I think DeGale's own activity with lateral movement kind of winded him a little bit. He was trying to coast and take a few rounds here and there off because he felt like, man, I probably got 4 or 5 of the first out of 7 rounds in this fight, so I can coast a little bit here and there. But DeGale still was blocking a lot of shots that Dirrell was throwing, because let's be honest, a lot of Dirrell shots in the second half of the fight were either blocked or it just looked flashy or perceptive enough, good enough where you could say, okay, he's just busier than Dirrell. I mean, than DeGale.
Yeah, Sean was making that point earlier, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, but at the same time, DeGale's not doing enough for these rounds for me to say, okay, DeGale. And then there was rounds where DeGale was winning the exchanges, but if you're influenced by the media coverage, like, oh, Dirrell is taking over the round. No, I had at least 2-3 exchanges where I say DeGale got the better of it, but you know, that's just me looking at who's doing what. But I was impressed more so by how DeGale in the championship rounds, the final 2 rounds, just took it to another gear. While Dirrell, you know, talked that shit, but didn't take it to another gear to just steal it. If he won them last 2 rounds, I think the judges would have gave it to him. But at the end of the day, DeGale was still poised. He still kept his eye on the prize. They both are 2 skillsmen. If they had a rematch, I would favor Dirrell because I think he knows what he must do. He needs to work on shorten his punches and not be so wide throwing them. He also needs to keep his hands up and be a little more defensive responsible. And he needs more activity in the ring to give himself more sharpened and fight some guys that are more world level than, you know, some guys that are tune-up fights. And I think a rematch with DeGale will have a better fight than the first one we saw, which was pretty entertaining for me. And that's how I thought about the fight.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to you with an actual question that we were talking about before you and discussing the fight that Sean and I was talking about before you and what you came on. Quick analysis of Alexander Povetkin's destruction of Mike Perez. Is Povetkin, is he that improved? Is he showing that much improvement, or is it just a case of Mike Perez being mentally shot?
You know, I saw a few things about Povetkin that caught my eye. Like, he's more bulk and upper top of his upper body now compared to
yeah. His body was in the past. I've never seen him look that muscular and that defined.
Yes, I'm like, wow. And then, you know, his streak.
Excuse me.
You good? His streak since he fought Klitschko, you know, beating guys like Char. What's that other guy's name? It starts with a T. Or
I can't remember his name. His name escapes my mind right now. I'm joining us live, by the way, right now at the Gail Falkenthaler Community Digital News. What's going on, Gail?
Good evening. Good evening. I'm going to blame it on the Southern California freeways. Glad to be here.
No, that's all right. No, that's all right. Proceed, J. Dill.
Okay. I mean, Povetkin, since that loss against Vladimir, has been on the road knocking guys out. And what I saw in this fight, even though it wasn't much of a fight, Mike Perez.
Carlos, I believe that's his name.
Say that again?
Carlos Takam you're talking about?
Yeah, him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Povetkin been beasting since he lost to Vladimir, and he gotten wiser on the inside too. But what I liked about this fight was how he set up his range to set up his right hand, and that caught Perez off guard, and then he allowed Perez to either overextend his punch or over lunge coming forward, so he feigned the clinch to set up that short right hook, and that was just murder sheet. And that was beautiful technique, beautiful form. And I think that fight with Vladimir taught him a lot what it takes to get to the top level. I think if Vladimir tries that clinching stuff in the future, Povetkin got something for that ass. And I want to see a rematch now because this Povetkin I'm enjoying. I mean, I think he's more crafty, more seasoned, more hungry. You see the determination, and he's a lot stronger. And he's knocking out quality opposition out like a beast. And Povetkin put himself back in the pool of fighters to talk about in the heavyweight division, where you got to take this guy as serious as top 2, top 3 right now as we speak until other guys prove otherwise. And that's all I got to say about. But Mike Perez, he needs to get himself mentally evaluated because I never see him let himself go this badly, and I never see him do the stanker leg that bad off ever. I mean, this guy is supposed to take punishment, but man, for Povetkin just to throw a few shots here and there, but it was the way he set him up, which was nice. I give Povetkin credit, but come on, man, I never seen Mike Perez that wobbly and that messed up. Not like that. I didn't expect Povetkin to do that to him, but it was entertaining while it lasted, and I like to set up what Povetkin did to get rid of Perez. That was masterful. That was Canelo is like performance.
Yeah, the way he stalked him, and then let Perez come forward, and then him stepping back and countering the way he did. Very much Canelo-like.
Yes, and so I appreciate the fight for what it was, and the setup, and I also like the DeGale and Dirrell fight because it was the battle of who's going to control the range, who's going to be the more skillsman of the higher ring IQ, and who's going to have the higher ring generalship in that fight. And DeGale won that battle by just a little bit. If it weren't for them knockdowns, Dirrell probably would have pulled it off. But I enjoyed that fight, and I'm waiting for this week type of fights because we got a lot to discuss with that. And I want to let you pass it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. It's a power pack weekend coming up. I'm gonna bring Gail into this discussion. Gail, your thoughts on James DeGale's win over Andre Dirrell, as well as Povetkin looking like a complete powerhouse against Mike Perez. Unmute your mic, Gail. You got your mic muted.
You're right. DeGale made that very interesting division, didn't he? But he almost let off the gas too much. He got a narrow decision in a fight that really he should have been in command of. So I hope lesson learned there for him in the future. But very impressed with his performance. He did all the things he needed to do, and the close scores, I hope, were lesson for him, which can only benefit him in his career. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next with him. Povetkin, man, it's hard to believe it was the same guy that was in with Klitschko, dismantling Perez like that. So it says a lot about Povetkin, and I agree, a rematch that I never thought in a million years I'd give a damn about seeing, I'd love to see. But I also think it tells us a lot more about Perez than it does about Povetkin. And I've been more and more of the belief, the more I see him, that Perez has never been the same since he knocked out Mago, and we all know what happened there. I don't think he's ever mentally recovered from that. I really don't. I don't think he wants to be there. I think it often when your opponent suffers a very serious life-threatening injury or dies in some cases, as Abdul Salamov did after Perez was in the ring with him. Yeah, sometimes the fighter who won, who did the damage, gets the worst of it, certainly mentally. And I think that's what's happened to Perez. I think his future is certainly in grave doubt.
I'm gonna open up the panel here and talk about the future of Povetkin. Both Gail and DeGale talk about the possibility of Povetkin, how Povetkin would look in a rematch against Vladimir Klitschko. Well, with his win over Perez, Alex Povetkin is in line now for a shot against Deontay Wilder, who's going to be making his first title defense next month, I believe. And I'll just open up the floor for everybody to chime in. Given how Povetkin looked against Perez, your thoughts on a Alexander Povetkin Deontay Wilder match? Wilder, he's very talented, but he's still a bit raw. There's a lot of room for improvement here. It looks like Povetkin's getting better, not just skill-wise, but physically. He's improving well. You saw his body against Perez, so I just open up the floor and anybody can chime in. Your thoughts on the prospect of a Deontay Wilder Alexander Povetkin fight? Should, of course, Wilder, he has to make his title defense, win his title defense against Molina, but I'm gonna be safe and say he will win. But again, Povetkin and Deontay Wilder. Your thoughts? And anybody can chime in.
I'll go first. Povetkin and Wilder. Povetkin's going to slip through one of Wilder's jabs, and he's going to hit him with a right hook, and it's going to stun Wilder. Then he's going to throw an uppercut and a shot to the body, and then throw a vicious right hand, and it's going to drop Wilder. Wilder going to get up. Wilder's going to try to fight back, and Povetkin's going to catch him with another hook, and that's going to be murder she wrote in that fight. A fight against Vladimir, I think Povetkin is going to use feints. I think he's going to be a lot stronger coming into that fight, where Klitschko won't tire him out with weighing his body on him so much. I think Povetkin is going to show us that he has a better inside game, and the fight is going to be a lot more competitive. And I think he's going to get more of his punching range this time around in the fight, where Klitschko might try to survive this fight, and we might have a new heavyweight champion. It's going to go.
Oh wow! So you going off top that Povetkin he knocks out Wilder, and that he gives Klitschko a hell of a fight in the rematch.
Yes, I think from what I'm seeing, man, in this run, and it's just the tweaks that he's doing. I just see it's becoming more of his time, and he's fighting in his prime now. And I think this guy wants it. I think he wants the throne right now. You can see it in his eyes. You just see it.
Sean, Gail, what you need? Your thoughts?
I think Povetkin's got the power to take down Wilder, but I don't know if he's mobile enough. It's certainly a battle of the big boys I'd like to see. Povetkin has come along. Lord knows, after the drubbing he got from Klitschko, he was a completely different fighter. But again, I have grave doubts about where, mainly because of his mental issues, and they're affecting his physical conditioning clearly. I just don't think he's in it right now mentally. So, was that a true representation of what kind of fighter we'd see in the ring with Wilder as far as Povetkin goes? I think the jury's still out with me. I'm not making as bold a prediction, but it's a fight I'll look forward to seeing. No doubt about that.
Sean?
Hi.
Unmute your mic, Sean. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, what was the question again?
The thoughts on Povetkin fighting Wilder, since he's in line for that shot now, as well as the thoughts on Povetkin in a rematch against Klitschko.
Well, I mean, it's a 4-horse race, right? Or a 4-horse race with Povetkin, Fury, Wilder, and Klitschko. I don't see Wilder taking this fight, not until 2016 at least, because Haymon is going to put him on national TV against guys to make him look good and sort of build his heavyweight champion. He's not going to risk losing him after just getting him. So I don't see that fight happening. I see a Fury-Klitschko fight more likely. I know they're in the works for it. But I agree with Dave Dill when he was saying that Povetkin would probably knock him out. I mean, I can see that happening because Povetkin has the power. He also has the experience. And he's been on the top stage against like a top fighter, a tall, rangy, powerful top fighter. And I mean, he didn't get knocked out in that fight. Well, I don't see him getting knocked out against Wilder, who I respect and think he's a great young fighter, but I just don't think he's really ready for that level of competition at this point.
What you need?
Well, the problem is that Povetkin fought a guy with a shorter reach than he did. Povetkin has a 75-inch reach, whereas Perez has a 70, I think it's 72, something like that. So what Povetkin did is a classical counter right to a southpaw. So he studied his southpaw, and what Floyd Mayweather did to the Filipino fighter, I forgot his name now, Manny Pacquiao, in the first round. The end of the first round is almost the exact same thing without the feint of the jab that he did to Perez. Now he's not going to be able to do that against Deontay Wilder. He's not going to be able to do that against Vladimir Klitschko because Klitschko has an 85-inch reach advantage over Povetkin, and Wilder has the same thing. They're big, tall fighters. If they fight big and tall, and they're both athletic, and they both can maintain range, this is not even going to happen. The guy who's going to have to close the gap to make range will be Povetkin, and he's going to get counterpunched, and he'll get knocked out. So I really can't say that Povetkin, based on this performance, this particular fight, that means that those problems that are posed by these much bigger, stronger fighters, he's going to be able to solve those. He has to be intelligent. I don't know anyone who can get on the inside of Klitschko, because if you try to go low, he'll keep you low. If you try to go high, you'll meet his jab. Deontay Wilder is the same kind of dude. He's more athletic. So you know, Bermain Stavern tried, and he almost got knocked out. So I mean, you know, I wouldn't go so far as to say because of his performance against Mike Perez that translates into him beating those two guys. Vladimir Klitschko is very wily. If you tried him, when he's doing the clinch, he's head controlling you at the same time. Mike Perez was trying to get head control, and then wow, I'm just blanking out. And then Povetkin, he slipped like Marcos Maidana. He slipped the attempted clinch, and then went over the top with the overhand right. Okay, but that won't work against these bigger, taller, stronger, more athletic guys. And Klitschko's very athletic as well. So I don't see him beating Klitschko. I'm sorry. A lot of people think he can beat Klitschko. I don't see it. I don't see him beating Wilder either, but I don't think Wilder's going to take that fight according to Sean this year. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree on that aspect with Wilder. I don't think he'll fight him in 2015 either. I think he'll fight him at the beginning of 2016, first quarter, but he's not going to fight him this year. He'll fight the fight he has coming up with Molina. He'll have another fight probably in the fall, either on Showtime or one of the NBC, CBS cards, just to up his profile. And then towards beginning of 2016, you will see that mandatory fight. You made notes. What you need, when you're on here, you often talk about range and distance, how a particular fighter is either an outside guy, a mid-range fighter. He either fights mid-range in, mid-range out. And the problem with Povetkin, he is a mid-range in fighter going against two guys who are mid-range outside fighters.
Right.
Who can move, who are athletic. In the case of Wilder, he has hand speed, really good hand speed for heavyweight. And against Klitschko, he has a guy who really knows how to use his reach. And I think it's at that range that both Wilder and Klitschko provides that will be problematic against a Povetkin. I think Povetkin would do better against Klitschko in the rematch, particularly if the referee, depends on the referee, if the referee doesn't allow Klitschko to hold.
Okay.
But my question is, with Povetkin in a rematch with Klitschko, will he throw enough punches?
Well, the thing about it is,
will the activity level step up?
Yeah.
If it doesn't, he's not going to beat him, even in a rematch. Even if he performs better, even if it's a case of if a referee doesn't allow Klitschko to hold, it's the range and the reach on the one hand, good educated jab, plus the fact that Povetkin doesn't throw enough punches. That will be the difference. And against Wilder, he may catch Wilder, no doubt about it. We still have questions about Wilder. Well, we have questions about both guys' chins, but my problem is Wilder can move as well, and I don't know. My thing is I just don't think a Wilder with a brilliant in his corner, with Lennox Lewis working with him as well, teaching him how to fight tall. Wow. I don't think he will let a Povetkin get inside of him and try to do damage. They will employ a style specifically for Povetkin that would try to neutralize the mid-range inside game of him. They won't allow, in short, they won't allow Povetkin to get close enough to do damage.
Yeah, that's what I agree with that. I also say that these guys also, they hit with some heat. You know, these are big, big guys. So when Povetkin starts to take that punishment because they're finding range on him, you know, he's going to go down. And that's the problem with all of these smaller fighters. Chris Bird was very good. You know, this guy, Brian Jennings, very good fighters. But these are huge guys, and they hit you with the jab. It's like they hit you with their power hand, you know, and that's a big, big problem. You have to get past that. Whereas Perez had to get past Povetkin's jab, now Povetkin is in the situation where he has to get past that jab, and that's the problem.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask.
Go ahead, Jake.
Let me ask both of you guys this question. Who telegraphs their offense more predictably, Wilder or Klitschko?
Wilder.
I would say Wilder because he's more green. He's less experienced.
So you saying that Wilder will be a little bit easier to time for Povetkin than Klitschko will?
No.
No, I don't think so.
He mixes it up. That's the problem.
So
he could come with an uppercut. He could come with a straight right. The one thing you know is he's going to throw a jab, but you don't know when. So.
And the thing is, with Klitschko, you know what you're going to get. He'll throw a lead left hook, or he'll throw a 1-2, and that's it. With Wilder, he can throw the double jab right hand. He can lead with the right hand, come back with the left hook. He can stay outside. He can throw a 1-2-3, which Klitschko doesn't do as often. Even though Wilder is less experienced, he has a little bit greater variety in his punch distribution than Klitschko has. Even though Klitschko is the far more experienced fighter, Wilder has more versatility. It's just the fact that with Wilder, he leaves himself open a lot more than Klitschko does, in my opinion. And that's where Povetkin could catch him.
That's what I'm thinking, what you just said right there.
But he's more athletic, though.
Yeah, he's more athletic, and I think he's an improving fighter. And there's a reason that they got Lennox Lewis working with him behind the scenes. Is because Lennox Lewis is going to teach this dude how to use his height to his full capability. And because of that, he will improve with each fight. And by the time that fight happens, I think it'll happen in the first quarter of 2016, you're going to see a far better fighter than you saw with the fight with Stavern.
So do you think he needs to get some rounds in against Molina and then just finish him? So he could try to showcase a little bit of what he's learned? So he can get a rhythm going?
It's up to Molina, I think, to push him to do that. If Molina can't do it, he's supposed to do what he's supposed to do. Get him out of there. It's right. Based on Molina's level. If Molina is not up to the level, why keep him around? You know?
Oh, I agree with that.
And Wilder he could get that experience in the gym, fighting high quality, doing high quality sparring.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get Sean and Gale in before we go into the next fight. Your final thoughts on this, Gale and Sean?
Again, it's a fight I'd like to see. I don't think Wilder's a pushover for this one at all, and I agree with Sean, who's written on our little insider chat line that he's faster, and I think, you know, in boxing, speed kills your opponent, and I think Wilder's going to have that edge over Povetkin. Punching power being equal, speed wins.
Sean?
You know, this is why we are starting to get excited about the heavyweight division. And there's a lot more buzz in the YTDP because some of these impressive performances that have happened, people stepping up, some people looking beatable, Klitschko, not looking so great as last fight, even though he was fighting a young, big, awkward Jennings. So it's not like he was fighting a bum. So styles do make fights, so we would see maybe obviously a different fight depending on who he fought. But I mean, Wilder, what people are excited about is the fact that he has that height to match guys like Klitschko and Fury, but he's also got that athleticism, the speed, you know, and he has the power. But the one question we still have about him is his chin. So we know he can dish it, but how's he going to take it? I mean, you know, Klitschko had those concerns early on in his career as well, but that he's moved on and he's learned how to protect himself, and it hasn't been an issue. So obviously, we think the same thing can happen to Wilder down the road. But people need to be knocked out a couple of times before that happens. So we have to see if Wilder needs that lesson or if he's going to be able to, avoid that lesson and just sort of learn in the gym from experienced people, or whatever else. But it's going to be an exciting 2015-16 if these fights get set up.
Yeah, let me make a correction before we move on. I talked about Klitschko. Basically, he's a 1-2-3 guy. That's wrong on my part. Klitschko, he does throw multiple jabs and follows with the right hand, but the difference is that Wilder, he does it a lot faster than Klitschko. And Wilder, he does it, and he's had a greater ability to get out of the way. So I wanted to make that correction. I'm going back to you, Sean. I think 3 weeks ago or so, we were talking about boxing and doing a post-fight show, doing one of our post-fight shows. Well, we were just talking after the show had ended. You had talked about a Russian guy by the name of somebody needs to move their mic. I'm sorry. You talked about a Russian cruiserweight by the name of Dmitry Kudryashov. Excuse me. Well, he fought on the undercard of Povetkin and Perez, and he scored a 6-round knockout of a guy by the name of Maroro, Vacapita Maroro. I'm going to give you the floor to talk about Kudryashov, known as the Russian Hammer. I mean, he's limited skill-wise, but the thing about him is this dude can punch like hell. And once he catches you clean, he knocks you out. So I'm going to give you the floor. You mentioned him on a show a few weeks back, post-fight. The floor is yours. Talk about this guy, Sean. And how did you find him? How did you find him?
Just on YouTube. He was on I'm not sure whose undercard, but on somebody's undercard, if not Povetkin, another top cruiserweight, one of the top Russian fighters, and he was on the undercard, and it was a short fight, so I just checked it out, and when I saw his power, I was just blown away. I mean, I think he probably has the knockout of the year from 2015. The one competitor that might be there is maybe Tete, who had a great knockout as well. But I mean,
yes,
Tete's was well worked and developed and sort of accumulation. I mean, the knockout itself wasn't, but just the build-up. Whereas this guy, he just hit this guy with a left hook, and the guy dropped like a tree. He was just done. And I mean, even this fight against the guy he just beat, the Zambian fighter, or not Zambian, Namibian fighter, he hit him for a great shot to the body and finished it. In a fight that, was sort of showing that he had some room to develop. I mean, he started slow. He didn't look too clean. He looked a little sort of like Berbitov. Great power, but still hittable. Not so refined, not so smooth. But what really is great and exciting is that the cruiserweight, division, which has also been really a dead division over the last few years. I mean, well, since Evander Holyfield. I mean, they have like a great crop of fighters now, all mostly coming from Russia. The guy who's in front, Gregor Dvorzad, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but he just had a big knockout win as well against a quality opponent. I mean, you have Leberbev, who, has fought well. And another guy on that card who was really good was another Russian guy who sort of looks like a monster, just his appearance. The unibrow and just big, giant, sort of strong-looking guy. I think his name was Chakiev, another guy that's similar. So I expect the cruiserweight division, I mean, is going to have some great matchups in the future because you have like 6 Russian fighters that all sort of fight on the same cards that show tremendous power. And they're all going to end up meeting because like 5 of those guys are all in the top 10. So
yeah, absolutely. This is the same. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Sean. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
If you like power, watch him. You could go back and watch all his fights. I mean, he's 18-0 with 18 KOs. And obviously, the competition he's fought is not the upper echelon. And we can say cruiserweight, maybe, there is no superstars at that weight. But as far as competitive fights, I mean, there's lots of fighters there.
And to your point, this is the same Kudryashov who starched former cruiserweight champion Juan Carlos Gomez, I believe, in either 1 round or 2 round.
Yeah.
I think it was 1 round. Hit him with a shot, and Gomez went down like he had been shot. A devastating punch. Right hand, I believe it was. I would just open up the floor for everybody. Have any of you guys, lady and gents, if any of y'all seen Kudryashov, excuse me if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, I'm butchering his name, my apologies. Have any of you seen this Russian hammer? And if so, your impressions of him? And that's just for anybody.
I haven't watched a cruiserweight fight since Hug versus Afalabi, to be honest with you. No. But I'm going to check him out. Thanks for the heads up.
Gail, what you need? Have any of y'all seen him?
I have seen him, and the cruiserweight division is just the most interesting division. It's caught in between, the light heavyweight and heavyweights, and they just sort of these misfits. They're just stuck at a size that's tough to find good competition. He's the first good one I've seen in a long time. It seems like we're have no lack of talent coming out of Russia and some of the former republics. These guys have been languishing they're fighting along in obscurity for 5-10 years, and suddenly they get good enough to get somebody here, in the Western Hemisphere interested in them, and here they come. It's just interesting to me that there seemed to be a never-ending supply. The guy I was interested in, I gotta look up his name.
Giraffe?
The guy that fights out of the Summit, French coach, and he's from Congo, who had a regular appearance here recently. Dang it, I'll think of it. You know what? I'll figure it out and you get back to me. But yeah, I've been impressed. One more of these big Russian monsters coming along. He looks pretty good.
It seems to be a real surge, a real rise in cruiserweights and light heavyweights. Russian cruiserweights and light heavyweights with Bersabev and Kovalev at 175 as well. And the other fighter that Sean mentioned, who fought on the same card as Kudryashov, as well as Povetkin. I'm trying to name what's his name? Draj, I think his name was. But I go to you on this. What you need? Have you seen Kudryashov fight? And if so, your impressions of him?
No, I haven't. I actually haven't seen him. So you piqued my interest. I just want to research him right now. Do you have his actual name?
Let me put it on in the chat.
Okay.
Inside chat, and then we can move on and get to the news segment of the show. News broke today that Frampton signed a deal with Al Haymon. Frampton, undefeated IBF junior featherweight champion, beat Kiko Martinez to win that belt. Scored a very impressive title defense. I think in March it was. Can't remember the name. Mandatory title defense. Talking about him fighting Scott Quigg. That's the big fight for him out there. But he signed a deal, leaving. Well, let me put it this way: Haymon will work as an advisor for Frampton, who will continue to be managed by Barry McGuigan and be promoted by Cyclo Promotions. You sent this breaking news to me, Sean. So I'll go to you on this one first. Impressions of this deal with Al Haymon?
For Frampton, it's obviously a great move because he's a big commodity in the UK. So joining up with Haymon with his huge stable of fighters and his big giant contracts and TV appearances and everything else, who could blame the guy? This just rings ching, ching, ching. So for him, I could totally see why he's jumping on that. It's a shame because it was looking like maybe we were going to get a quick fight, but obviously that's going to be put on way hold. And but in the positive, maybe this gives us a fighter for Santa Cruz to fight, since he won't fight the other guy fighting in North America, Rigo. Maybe he can fight a guy that's going to come over and try to break into the new market. So that's good. You know, I mean, if we can get 2 of the top 4 guys actually on the same card fighting each other, I mean, it'll be something better than we had before. So, I mean, I will see how it works out. But, you know, I'm excited with the prospects.
Absolutely. For me, a PBC on NBC card, PBC on CBS card featuring Frampton, fighting from Ireland, fighting from England. I'm down for it. Like I would love to see him fight Santa Cruz, just to get Santa Cruz out the way, because he's annoying me right now, fighting nobody. I will go to Gail on this one. Your thoughts on it? Frampton signing this deal with Al Haymon.
Smart move, smart young man. You know, this gets him the visibility on a bigger stage that he needs and deserves, and it looks good for Haymon too to get a fighter of that quality in his stable. It's a good move for everybody.
I'll go to you on DeGale, and then what you need. Your thoughts on this deal with Frampton?
It only helps boxing because in America it gives us more of a broadened scale of how the Europe fighters are, and Haymon is bringing more of an upscale to boxing by making it more globalized and having more global fighters in a stable or in it as an advisement, as a consultant. But the point is, we're getting more quality, either skillful fighters or action-packed fighters. Haymon is bringing different styles for other viewership. Like, we could see a skillsman Pugilis fight with DeGale or Dirrell, and then a few weeks later, we can see Broner versus Porter, which is going to be it's going to be insane. And then a possible Frampton, whomever he's going to fight, that's going to be a high-paced, high-action fight. And, you know, I'm excited to notice that, you know, we might complain about certain things about Haymon, but he's getting a lot of the good fighters. I mean, this is the stuff that Oscar De La Hoya used to do. Haymon is just taking them away from him, some from Aram, and just some from UK, and who knows else where he's going to take some people at. But Haymon is the man of boxing, and on a local scale, he's making it hard for HBO to step their game up even more, and he's making Showtime about to step their game up more. But he's taking the quality fighters, but the matchups possibly, whether it's in-house or whatever, it sounds like more of a promotional war that we used to call the Cold War. It's going to be another version of it, but it's going to be on television stations now. And
Yeah. To your point, he another power move from Haymon, forcing HBO on the one hand and forcing Bob Arum on the other hand to step their game up. I do have some small worries about a possible monopoly, but as long as the good fights are there and as long as the fighters are getting paid what they deserve, I'm okay with it for now. And again, it introduces Carl Frampton, who I believe is one of the better fighters out there that U.S. fans have not seen. It introduces us to him, gives him a bigger, makes him more visible to U.S. fans, which is the key. So at the end of the day, for me, it's a very good move by Frampton. Smart move by Frampton. Smart move by McGuigan too, because he holds on to him. He still has managerial rights and still has promotional rights on him. I'll go to you on you this one. On you, I'll go to you. What you need? Your thoughts on this? To me, this at the end of the day, it's a good move on all parties.
Well, I don't think Haymon's going to monopolize anything first and foremost. He's a manager. What I will say is, he is becoming one hell of a manager. Everybody knows him now. Haymon's name is the name now to go to get your advice.
What I mean by monopoly, what I mean by monopoly, he's just signing all of the fighters, all of them, just signing all of him, much in the same way that Don King tried to do, but he's doing it in a different way. And more importantly, for me, he's giving them visibility with the NBC cards, the CBS cards, the Spike TV cards, and he's paying them what they deserve. because King didn't do that. He would stuff these guys on undercards, would give all these fighters he would sign up a platform for exposure. He would fight them on a heavyweight card here and there, a possible Showtime card. Haymon is doing it completely different than what King tried to do, and that's the difference for me.
Well, to answer your question, Don King was a promoter. Al Haymon is a manager or advisor. He's like Michael Kantz. He's like managers out there. Okay.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
So what I'm trying to make a very clear discrepancy, so people understand this could never be a monopoly, is he has to work with promoters. He has to. Every fighter that goes on Premier Boxing Network is either with Lou DeBella or some other promotional company. So first and foremost, he can't take over boxing, but what he can do for his business, his managerial business, Haymon Boxing LLC, is he can make that business the business to come to. So it's always going to be good for him as a manager. And he gives, what he advises boxers on is their options so that they are now more liberated or free to choose to work contracts with different promotional companies, making the promotional companies less likely to exploit them, right? That's all Al Haymon is about. Why I say this is because he has to work with, like you were saying, Carl Frampton's promotional company, and he's not the only manager of Carl Frampton, right? He still has his manager. He's co-managing Frampton. He's like an advisor. So Al Haymon's not going to take over boxing anytime. For boxing to succeed, we need Top Rank. I heard SMS Promotions went into, they filed for bankruptcy. Hopefully they will reincarnate in another form, and they will keep on pushing. We need this diversity. We have now Top Rank Television, I do believe. We have Golden Boy Television. We have Fox TV. This is good for boxing, you know. And just for people to understand, I don't think Al Haymon is trying to he can't. It's not possible to monopolize boxing, especially as a manager. It's impossible. But he's definitely doing great business, and his reputation is now, at least in the eyes of the fighters and in the eyes of the boxers, is a great one. It seems as though you can't go wrong with Al at this point in time. So he's getting good business. And what that serves for is Carl Frampton, because Al is working along with other people for the Premier Boxing Network to come to being. You could see maybe a Carl Frampton, Scott Quigg, we don't know, on Premier Boxing Network. You never know. So now, instead of having it as a big fight just in Europe, it may be in Europe still, it may be in England, but it's on the Premier Boxing Champions Network, or it may even be on Showtime, whatever. They feature it to build up Carl Frampton so everybody knows about Carl Frampton, not just the English people. And then this big superstar fights whoever, you know. So that works well for Carl Frampton, I think. But as I said, I don't think he's going to monopolize the sport anytime soon. I don't think he's thinking along those lines. I think he's thinking along the lines of, you know, we're making the first steps to get boxing to network television, and I think he's just going to be. He wants to be that name that when you hear Al Haymon, you really want to go work. You want to get a deal with him, for him to manage you and to sort of sculpt your career, to direct your career along the lines. You still keep your you still keep your manager, you still keep your team, but you know Al's there to work that master plan. So I think that's what Al's all about.
Can I say one? Can I say one thing before?
Go ahead, Dill.
Yeah. This is what I do like about what Haymon is allowed to do. You know, like we get to see more showcase of pugilists and sluggers, and then we can see some boxer punchers. My thing is, HBO was about to have an agenda of propaganda where it was going to be most fights of slugfests and stuff, and that's the way HBO was going to go. But now, Haymon getting fighters every week to fight almost for each month might make HBO be more honest and be like, okay, we need more fighters like Lomachenko or some highly quality pugilist type fighters who has a style that's crowd pleasing, but they're very talented. Period. Meaning, like, we don't have to see them sock 'em, bock 'em type fights. on HBO. Like, it's cool to see a Matisse Provodnikov fight here and there, but I still like the skillsmen in that ring. I like to see those fights too, because I like the diversity of boxing more so than just one particular style of boxing. And it will broaden our fan base, and it will broaden the preference of our fan base because we get more exposure. And that's what I like about the so-called Haymon takeover. We're getting more exposure now, and I got more and more people saying it's refreshing to see boxing back on local stations and stuff. And they're actually watching these fights and starting to know who these guys' names are. So the Haymon effect is starting to hit the casuals.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The more fighters he signs, he's presenting guys with different styles, with different skill sets. So to your point, you do not see just outright brawls and wars, because as I said before, that may be entertaining short term, but it has an effect on fighters long term in terms of their boxing life and even their life after boxing. So in that regard, I have a proclivity towards boxers as well. That's what I prefer. Brawls are cool, but you know, skills pays the bills, if you will, and skills survive at the end of the day. You had a comment, Sean. You had a comment, Sean, about possibly about the issue of monopoly. Excuse me. In the private chat, express what you were saying in the private chat, Sean.
I was just saying that obviously boxing, I mean, worldwide, I mean, Al Haymon can't monopolize because, I mean, you know, it stretches the span of the globe. So, I mean, it would be hard to sort of regulate, as we just see with boxing. That's one of the problems, right? There's limited regulation. So, based on, like, standards and everything else, I mean, you know, depending on where in the world it's happening, I mean, you know, it's easier or more flexible than other places. But, I mean, in the States, with the cable networks and the huge stable of fighters, I mean, I think he has like over 150 fighters in his stable now. He's going to be able to start to monopolize boxing in the U.S. just because he's going to force other people to either kowtow to him or fights like he has done. I mean, he hasn't worked with a lot of outside promoters, only a few on major fights, but I mean, all the fights he has on his cards, they're mostly all fighters from his own stable. I mean, obviously they have managers, but I mean, not promoters. I mean, he's not working with major promoters in the States like Top Rank, and he's definitely not going to work with, what's his face, hip-hop artists who's not bankrupt, Jay-Z. So,
as opposed to the hip-hop artist who is bankrupt.
Exactly.
50 Cent.
So,
for those who don't know what Sean's talking about, 56 company recently filed for bankruptcy, so
which sort of emulates their careers, but away from the hip hop culture. I mean, you know, you can see
50 making bank now outside of hip hop, so let's give him credit for that.
Yeah,
just not in boxing. He was just not good.
Yeah.
Power was a good show. Power, very good show. So it's a decent show.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the problem is that you can see that he's starting to try to create this kind of monopoly, UFC type of thing, which on the short term, I can see why people would think it's good and entertaining and beneficial. But I mean, on the long term, I don't know if it's going to be. I mean, one of the biggest problems with UFC is the fighters get overworked and underpaid and burnt out, and their careers are shortened because of the high level of competition they're forced to do to bring in the audiences, so that TV networks make money and then it becomes profitable. I mean, you can't just put out fights with people nobody knows because nobody cares and nobody watches. And it's going to be the same for his cable TV shows. I mean, he's got to put out the names there to try to get the audience, and he needs better matchups so that the fights are a little more entertaining and not so one-sided. And what's going to happen is, I mean, you're going to end up needing like a stable of 1 million fighters so that guys don't get burnt out, or you're going to burn out your top-name guys.
Sean, let me ask you a question. Do you think boxing needs more reality shows which could help promote some of these fighters that might have these fights that you say people don't care about?
No,
No.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to see no reality shows type stuff in boxing. No.
Reality shows
Just
and it didn't help. You know,
you don't need that in this sport. You just need guys. He just needs to put the good fighters in the ring with each other and put them on a platform where we can see them. That's what he needs to do. Focus on the talent. Focus on the fights. You do that, you promote them well, you give them the visibility, you give them the platform, and the people will watch, period.
I just want to say something, though. I don't think Al Haymon is against HBO or Showtime. I think Al Haymon is trying to build up fighters for HBO and Showtime for pay-per-view. So, in other words, instead of getting pay-per-views which are poor and people are not interested in the pay-per-view, or you're saying, who's this guy? This guy's fighting. Now, you're building up stars for pay-per-view on Showtime, HBO, all the premier boxing networks. Kind of like what ESPN started to do, and then you have the people going to Showbox, but in a bigger way. So he's trying to bring boxing across a lot of different platforms. I think that's what he's basically striving to do. I don't think he's antagonistic again against these networks because he needs them. I think he needs the premier networks to really put on those big mega fight, unless he has some other plan up his sleeve that I don't know about. But I would think he would be working around. I don't think he's going to also not work with Top Rank. I just don't see it. I'm watching how it's progressing, and I think he's going to have to work with all these different promoters. He's going to. But I guess they have to see how lucrative it is to work with him.
Let me say this, Michael. I got to disagree a little bit.
Go ahead.
This particular reason on the reality shows. 24/7 was the type of show that helped us understand the stories of Timothy Bradley and other guys and made us relate to them and stuff. I think if shows get nicely produced and have 30-minute shows or something like that, not saying like the Ultimate Fighter like what UFC does or something like that, do it for so many weeks until the actual matchup and build up. I'm talking about more so like, 2 weeks so we can get to know the stories, get hyped up, and then finally want to see these guys fight.
Okay, that I can rock with, but the problem is I don't want it to go too far. That can go too far. That's my fear. That's my only fear.
Yeah.
I think that we have to make it clear that there's a difference between the reality. When I think of reality TV, I'm thinking of the contender, competition type reality programming versus documentary programming, which you're absolutely right. Some of the 24/7 work has been superb. They have a world-class documentary unit, but there has to be real news involved for a documentary to work. And some of these guys, aren't able to carry one of those programs yet. So we need to see them in the ring, see what they're about, get interested in them, then maybe they're worthy.
Last word, J. Dale, before we move on.
Okay. I mean, I just feel like, the casual fan is in the reality TV era. So to get them brainwashed on boxing and for them to give a damn, you got to give them a story to follow. So however Haymon or other promoters want to advise it, I would say make some deals for some, whether it's documentaries or the 30-minute slot shows, or get them on these shows like ESPN or something. Just something to even the small-time fighters where boxing get talked more, even on sports talk platforms on mainstream level, to the point where it's more common to talk about boxing like the NBA and basketball, just in the United States or internationally, like soccer and other sports. That's just all I'm trying to say.
I certainly hear you. You certainly have a point there. And we're going to end that discussion. And you have some very good points there, which I agree with. I just feel my fear it can go too far. But ultimately, you're right. For boxing to open itself up, it has to become more 21st century in that regard. So I agree with you on that point, and that's the way for it to happen. That's the way for boxing to become more current and more updated, if you will. Friday night in Corona, California, Andre Fedosov scored an 8th round TKO over Donovan Dennis to win the Boxino heavyweight tournament. John Thompson upset Brandon Adams to win the Boxino Junior Welterweight tournament. I really don't want to talk about those fights specifically, but I want to talk about the event itself that took place on Friday Night Fights, which was the last episode of Friday Night Fights. Friday Night Fights began in 1998, I believe, initially with Bryan, Kenny, Max Kellerman, Teddy Atlas, Bob Popoff doing ringside commentary and whatnot. I'm going to go to you on this one, Gail, given your experience in the media, boxing media specifically. Talk about the legacy of Friday Night Fights, the impact of Friday Night Fights, and really for the last almost 20 years, how it became a mainstay, and a boxing institution. The impact of Friday Night Fights.
We owe a lot of what's going on right now in the boxing world and a lot of the exposure we're seeing on the main networks, broadcast networks in the United States in particular, to Friday Night Fights. Let's step back and think about the place that ESPN in general holds in the American sports world and other places. Your sport gets not just exposure on ESPN, it gets anointed. If you don't get your sport on ESPN, it isn't real to the American public. If ESPN deems it important enough to show, that's saying a lot about your competition. Week in and week out, good fights, bad fights, really crummy fights. ESPN would have them. They were at the Turning Stones. They were at the Fantasy Springs. They're in every corner of the universe. Kind of funny to me that on their last broadcast, they were broadcasting from something called the Omega Products Outdoor Arena. Let me tell you something. That was a parking lot behind an industrial park in Corona, which isn't as nice as Riverside, California. It's a little tiny off the freeway spot. Kind of funny that it would end up there. It was very, very blue collar, old school, and that was part of the fun of Friday Night Fights too, was keeping boxing real. These are where a lot of the guys toil. Once in a while, you'd be rewarded for your loyalty watching Friday after Friday by seeing some real star talent emerge. And it was very exciting when that happened. So you'd wait for it, and it finally come. But hey, Friday Night Fights kept a lot of boxing fans going for many, many years. And a friend of mine recently told me that when he was in the military, they didn't have access to HBO or Showtime, but they could see ESPN. So the only way he could keep up with boxing was to watch Friday Night Fights. I can bet that was replicated in America thousands, tens of hundreds of thousands of times for a lot of people. So the fan base that got established, the hardcore that stuck with it, those of us who put up with Teddy Atlas's rants and eccentricity all these years, we're being rewarded now. And I gotta tell you, I'm gonna miss seeing those Teddy Atlas.
And the fact that he was extremely self-righteous.
Oh my God! Well, one of his last greatest rants was last December when he watched in succession Mauricio Herrera get robbed and Tyson Cave get robbed, and I thought the man was going to explode. And I was sitting about 2 rows behind him when he did it that night, and it was epic. And we love him for it. What can you say?
I go to you on this one, J. Dill. I bet you Friday Night Fights began in 1998. It really picked up where Tuesday Night Fights on USA left us, dropped off. Gail mentioned the fighters that came through Friday Night Fights. The most known of those fighters who began his career basically on Friday Night Fights, Floyd Mayweather. Either his pro debut or second fight was there. He fought there multiple times leading up to his eventual win against Chiquinito Hernandez in '98 to win the belt. So many other fighters who came through the avenue of Friday Night Fights. So the legacy of Friday Night Fights, the impact of Friday Night Fights. Talk about it, bro.
Man, part of my teenager years, from high school to college to adulthood, Friday night fights was my thing. It bonded some brotherhood from college to high school. I mean, when me and my guy friends or females I didn't even know watch boxing, you will always see some Friday night fights, get some pizza. Hell, if you want to smoke a little marijuana here and there, and you know, let your hair down, get loose, enjoy who's the future of boxing. You might find a golden nugget. You never know on Friday night fights, so you might find some fool's gold, some pyrite, and be like, watch when they fight a puncher, somebody who could punch. They're gonna get their ass tossed. But at the end of the day, the legacy of Friday night fights was this to me. Like, as much as I enjoyed it, it was the minor league of stations for boxing. But it told you who's some of the come-up fighters. My problem with Friday night fights was the station that promoted them. They went against their own ways of not branding what they brand. Instead, they focus more on basketball, football, and drama-driven stuff, but they forget to keep promoting boxing. And when that happened, a lot of people stopped giving a damn about boxing. And if people wanted to see something, they had to rely on HBO propaganda, or that's pretty much it, because Showtime was still struggling with subscriptions. But at the end of the day, I appreciate fighters like Herrera or Taylor or Provodnikov. Caleb Truex, that Minnesota fighter, where did I see him? ESPN Friday Night Fights. And that's where my nickname for him, the Minnesota Bum, came from. I just don't like that guy. But yeah, Friday Night
Fights.
Ruslan Provodnikov. He came
Danny
through
Garcia,
that area. Right.
Mauricio Herrera, all of them.
Yeah. And you know, I must say, like, at the end of the day, Friday Night Fights was
Yorkis Gamboa as well.
Yeah, Gamboa. I was going to bring him up too. You're right. But my main point is Friday Night Fights is part of my legacy too, from my childhood to my adulthood. And it's sad to see it go, but mainly because ESPN don't know how to promote boxing, but they only know how to promote two fighters, and that's sickening in itself. And it's getting the casuals the wrong impression of how to perceive boxing. And I think their next agenda is to try to promote UFC more and just toss away boxing.
No, I'm praying that doesn't happen.
But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, Friday Night Fights deserves something better than that, and I think it should get picked up by another station, but get promoted harder. And I think Fox Sports or something should do that.
I'll go to you on what you need. Growing up in Trinidad, how much access did you have to Friday Night Fights growing up? Did you have much access to Friday Night Fights growing up? And if you did, your impressions of Friday Night Fights?
Well, even before Friday Night Fights, they had on USA Tuesday Night Fights. So yeah, we had all of that stuff down here because we had cable. So I think the fights were very interesting because that's where you got introduced to you could actually follow the career of a boxer from his beginnings, before he would appear on HBO, So yeah, it was very important. Now they're spreading it out. They have it on Fox TV, they have it on Spike and so on. So, but it's still important, I think, to have these feeder stations that can introduce you to these boxers, and then they can put more visible stations. Yeah.
You might need to mute your mic, Sean, because we're getting echo.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, I think somebody needs to either copy the programming from Friday Night Fights, or hopefully if the Premier Boxing Network is appearing on ESPN, I'm hoping this is just a sort of tweaked programming to Friday Night Fights, where you see a number of up-and-comers on the cards. Maybe you have somebody who's very, like Keith Thurman's going to be on the card on ESPN, right? He's a very visible guy. But then you have some of these up-and-comers, you know, so people can see them on the card of, you know, a visible guy. That would be, I think that's the best way to go about it, but it's very important to have people see these up-and-comers, not just, it's not televised anymore.
So
The way it's going to shuffle around is that ESPN is going to get the bigger ticket fight on Saturdays. ESPN is. ESPN has grown up alongside Friday Night Fights to become a much bigger powerhouse audience-wise. The Friday fights that we used to see on ESPN that are sort of the farm leagues are going to shuffle off to Spike TV and True TV. And that's where you're going to see some of those, as well as some of these Saturday afternoon events you're going to see on CBS and NBC, like we saw from Boston this last week. So ESPN is going to occupy kind of a different spot in the universe. I think they get a guarantee of 24 PBC events through next July. Something like that.
And Fox takes up some of the slack with some of the up-and-comers, but aren't these up-and-comers from big promotional companies, though?
If you watch the Boston fights, no. I mean, yeah, they had the headliner with DeGale and Dirrell, but yeah, once you drill down to some of the undercard fights, you know, when a guy on the card is called the hardest hitter ever to come out of Vermont, not exactly A-League stuff, you know what I'm saying?
If ESPN, this new venture with Haymon was smart, what they do is feature an up-and-coming guy like an Errol Spence. Give him a platform. That's what they should. That's what they should do. Because you know how high I think of him. Feature fighters like him. Feature fighters like Gausha, the Olympian from the 2012 Olympics. Fighters of that nature.
Amir,
what's the
Amir Imam.
Amir Imam. What's the lightweight? Emerging lightweight. Diaz. I think he is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. The Puerto Rican, I think bantamweight, feature fighters like that nature. That's what they should. That's what they should do if they were smart. But we will see where this new venture with Haymon and ESPN2, what they will do. I'll go to you on this one lastly, Sean. And unmute you. Well, keep your mic mute until I finish the question. What ultimately, not only did they feel that Friday Night Fights on ESPN fill the void for that Tuesday Night Fights left off, but it also it filled the void for network television when they stopped airing fights in the mid-late 90s. As we're all old enough to remember, up until that time, 70s, 80s, up until the mid-late 90s, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, boxing was really prevalent on network television. Once that fell off, that audience of hardcore fans moved to watching. Friday Night Fights picked up that hardcore audience who used to watch watched fights on weekends on network television. So I go to you on this one, Sean. The significance, the impact of Friday Night Fights.
Oh, I mean, it's like everybody said, you know, it became a staple. I mean, some of the older people, you know, we remember when all the big fights were televised. And then that's what you would do on Saturday, you know, afternoon, you'd see like big fights, you know, big name fighters, and you get to see the marquee names. But then once cable television no longer started to do that, then I mean ESPN, which was a growing network, and of course needed like to fill up the channel with like quality TV, and couldn't have NBA and all the big sports because they were already on the big networks. They took some of the lower level sports and promoted those. And one that lasted was Friday Night Fights. And I mean, by saying that, we know the level of fighters that people have been saying were lower level, trying to build up name fighters, guys they could afford, cards that financially were more viable. So what happened is you lost the casual audience, but I mean, you gave the hardcores something to fulfill, and they were able to jump on ESPN and be big supporters of it, and help the network grow. It's a shame that with ESPN's growth, they didn't sort of up the level of Friday night fights. I mean, occasionally you'd have like great cards, but I mean, a lot of times there were quality fights, but I mean, people that nobody really knew, and sometimes not easily to get excited about. So when their money grew, it would have been better if they would have been able to sort of put a little bit of their investment back in it, and had Friday night fights grow as well, which we probably wouldn't be at this stage right now, losing it to somebody else who was able to spend and reach into his deep pockets.
Yeah, absolutely. Mute Mike, Sean. And we just mentioned the fighters here in the private chat. I mean, Aldi Harrison, he began his career on Friday night fights. We mentioned New Yorker's Gamboa. Jean Pascal, he built his early career on Friday night fights. So did James Kirkland. Fighters like Brundis, Cornelius Brundis, Austin Trout, Jose Luis Castillo, Arislani Lara, Sergio Mora, Miguel Cotto, James Toney, the resurrection of his career, which ultimately led to the cruiserweight title in 2003. That happened on Friday night fights. Fighting guys there. So again, it was an institution. It is a mainstay. It was a mainstay. It was a staple. And hopefully, with the venture with Haymon, the legacy of boxing on ESPN2 will continue, and hopefully it will be bigger bouts, higher profile bouts, and it looks to a good start with Keith Thurman. He beginning that new venture with Haymon and ESPN2 in July, as he's defending the title there. Let's move on and start previewing the fights that's happening this weekend. Power Pack weekend in boxing, starting tomorrow night. Amir Khan fighting Chris Algieri, welterweight bout. I'll go to you on this one. What you need, Khan? He's talking Mayweather, but he says he's focused on this fight. Let's hope so. Fighting Chris Algieri, before who last we saw in the ring against Manny Pacquiao, he didn't look good in my opinion. I still don't know what his corner was doing, the advice they were giving him. It was piss poor corner work, in my opinion. For me, Khan is the favorite. I think he should win. I think he will win against Algieri. Talk about this fight coming up, Amir Khan and Chris Algieri. That's happening tomorrow night in New York on Spike TV.
Well, Algieri is the underdog. He is having it in his
mute your mic, Sean.
He's having it in his backyard, so that's an advantage to Algieri. What can I say about this? I think it's going to be Algieri has about the same dimensions as Khan. Does he have a chance against Khan? Of course, everyone has a chance in boxing. And so I guess, in a way, we just have to see what Algieri could do that shows that he has improved. Basically, improvement's the important thing for Chris Algieri. When he fought Manny Pacquiao, he had a good game plan in terms of what he had to do to offset Manny Pacquiao. It was somewhat unfortunate that he got knocked down. I was a faster fighter, so he's fighting another fast fighter in Amir Khan, a much more, should be a lot slicker to some degree. I don't know if I'm correct with this. I may be wrong. He's taller. He'll be taller. He's more defensively responsible because Virgil Hunter is working on his defense. Much more orthodox. So Chris Algieri, if he can, I guess, establish distance. I'm reaching here, but I have to try. If he can establish distance on him, he's tall, and he can use his jab because he's a pretty good jabber. That's one thing about Chris Algieri. He has a good jab. He can vary his jab. You can see that he's been schooled quite well in the jab. So using his jab and timing Khan properly, because though Khan is very fast, he has to also work off his jab. So if he could probably use his jab and turn Khan a lot. Chris Algieri has pretty, he has good footwork too. But his problem is going to be Khan's speed. Khan's very, very quick. Khan looks a lot stronger. I look at Khan compared to Chris Algieri, and Khan looks huge compared to Algieri. Yeah. So if Khan doesn't respect his power, Khan is going to try and stop him. So Algieri just has to. He's strong. He's tough. So he just has to try to turn Khan. Try to turn Khan. That's what he has to do, because he's not going to beat Khan in a straight line. He has to try and sort of outmaneuver Khan, and he has reasonably good footwork, and it's not impossible. I mean, in this boxing match, you have to think positively. You're going into a fight. You are tall. I think he's taller than Khan. I think he has a little reach advantage on Khan. So Khan's actually fighting a taller fighter. Use that reach advantage. Use that height to your advantage. Don't give up your height like he gave up his height against Pacquiao. And, hope for the best. I mean, he has a good trainer in his corner. They still have to mesh.
I disagree with that.
Well, if you, I don't know what else to
say. Man, that strategy against Pacquiao that they employed was terrible. I'm sorry.
No, he's with another trainer now.
Okay,
he's with John David Jackson. He's with John David Jackson.
I'm sorry. You're right.
So, Kovalev used his reach very well. I think John David Jackson could sort of impart a few things to Algieri so that he could use his range, use his height, use his timing as well as possible. Algieri's a rhythm fighter, so he has to get into his rhythm. So if Khan upsets his rhythm, he's really in a lot of trouble. So, but it's going to be a learning experience for Chris Algieri. He's been at welterweight before. He's only fought 3 junior welterweight fights, so this is not the first time he's at welterweight. He's been there before. So I think he's going to come in stronger than when he was at junior welterweight. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's a long shot, but
I'll go to DeGale and then Gale. The problem is, in Khan's corner, I really like Virgil Hunter as a trainer. And I think Khan has really improved with Hunter in the corner. I think Hunter is a bit of a mad scientist. He knows a lot of the subtle nuances about the sport. You can tell that by when he talks about the sport, talking about it on PBC on CBS when he gives analysis of the sport. And John David Jackson, he's a good trainer, but to me, I think Virgil Hunter may be better, and he may find a way to get to Algieri. So again, DeGale, Gale, talk about the fight.
Okay, man, this is a despicable fight.
Tell him how you really feel, bro.
I mean, what you need was being modest, diplomatic. But
he was reaching there. I gotta say that.
Let's give what you need a hand clap for trying to sell the fight. Bravo, bro. Bravo, bro. God damn, I mean.
It's our entertainment segment of the evening, I could tell.
I mean, he was reaching longer than Khan or Algieri's reach for the fight, man. I mean, let's just be honest, man. Khan got too many advantages. This is not even a orange level threat for Khan. I mean, if Khan does not dominate this fight, he needs to really consider to go back down or just retire, because if he struggles against a guy that really doesn't have the temperament to take the fight to him, and he's just more of a back-footed fighter, then these are styles that Khan demolishes. Khan struggles against guys who could stay in the pocket and exchange with you, or guys who can put the pressure on you and make him fight on his back foot.
Really sharp guys that can counterpunch well, in other words.
Yeah. Khan is an ambush outside fighter, and Algieri is not going to do anything that's going to stop the temperament of Khan's rhythm. He's not going to respect Algieri's power. I mean, Algieri is going to have to really time some left hooks. I don't know, man. That speed of Khan is just going to kill that style of Algieri's, man. Like, Algieri is so easy to throw combinations on. And you're going to see in this fight, Khan will just get 1-2s, 1-2-3s, not really pay no repercussions for it. And Algieri's just going to have a fucking watermelon in his eyes and shit. They might just stop the fucking fight. And I'm not going to give a fuck. And I'm not going to give Khan credit. Really. I mean, this is cherry picking in the fucking field of trees for me.
Say it with your chest, bro.
I might as well be on Ramadan right now than me watch this bullshit, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not giving him credit for a Chris Algieri fight. I mean, I didn't even give Pacquiao credit for fighting Algieri. I mean, for goodness sake, I'll just put it like this. If Khan loses this fight, I'm laughing my fucking ass off. Number two, I don't want to hear nothing about Mayweather ever come out of his mouth. I don't even want to hear even Pacquiao's name coming out of his mouth. I don't even want him to fight anybody. But if he struggles against Chris Algieri, he needs to rematch Julio Diaz. I mean, for me to say that much about Khan, this is fucking Khan against Algieri. Khan versus Algieri. I mean, what the fuck? I mean, I'd rather see this weight bullshit of Porter versus Broner right now than the.
My God.
At least I could come with a serious face talking about it. But this fight, man, I mean, Michael, you know you can't take this fight seriously. I know you. This is your platform. So deep down inside, you're like, what kind of bullshit is this, man? We hardcore fans. I ain't gonna be.
That's why I'm not watching it live, but I'm interested in Javier Fortuna versus Vasquez.
That I can get for, but Khan and Algieri, and that's the main event? Oh, come on, Spike. Come on, man. Spike it up. That's all this.
I will move on. Gail, Sean, your impressions of this fight. And to Bill's point, Khan needs to stop talking Mayweather. In my opinion, win this fight and try to get a fight with Kell Brook. But we can talk about that next week.
He may get Mayweather though, because it looks like it's between him and Timothy Bradley. They're the guys with the best resumes out there, so he may get him.
Yeah, he's gonna have to work around Ramadan.
Gail, Sean, talk about this fight.
I wish people on this show would talk about how they really fucking feel. That's just, I mean, driving me nuts. You know, Amir Khan and Chris Algieri fall into this same category for me. You know, like on Facebook where you describe a relationship as it's complicated. You know, I feel like that with both these guys. There are things I like about them. There are things I really don't like about them. And since they kind of fall in the same category, what the hell? Let them fight each other. What the hell do I care? I don't. I agree, though. There's a lot more at stake for Amir Khan here than there is for Chris Algieri. Algieri has nothing to lose. He's living a charmed life. He should have never been here in the first place. So every fight he gets is a bonus. You know, he's not living in his parents' basement anymore, and he actually has a car. So I think life's good for him. He's loving it.
Wow.
Smart guy. He's got plenty of opportunities outside boxing after his little run is done. Now Khan, on the other hand, has a lot to lose. He has a lot that can embarrass him if he doesn't look good. So he needs to put on a good fight. And, you know, at least I can say this. Despite certain people's disappointment on this show in this fight, you know, it's your new Friday night fights. At least they aren't in a parking lot in Corona, California. It's a step up.
One more thing, like, I just got to say it. Khan deserves his ass whooped for us to even talk about this fight. And that's all I got.
Well, you know, as a person, I have a lot of respect for Chris Algieri. You know, he's He's a stand-up guy. He lives a good life. He's a very well-educated guy.
Skills. That's the point. We gotta talk about his character more so than his skills in this fight. That's how pathetic Khan's cherry picking has become. Man. I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gil. I'm rude. Sorry.
He's off the rails here, man.
Sean,
I said my piece.
Sean, speak on it.
You know, I just think it's funny how some fans will prop some fights and then they rip the crap out of other fights. I mean, this fight is no different than tons of fights that have happened in the last 2 years, and lots of people gave them a pass and never had anything negative to say about them. So I put this in that same category. It's not a bad fight. You have a guy who was a 140 champion fighting a guy who was a 140 champion, not a 147 champion. People still say he hasn't proven anything. He doesn't deserve a Floyd fight. He fought two monsters. Are they monsters? Collazo and Alexander. I mean, you know, Alexander easily beat Maidana, who Floyd just fought twice. Collazo knocked out Ortiz, who Floyd fought.
That doesn't count.
No, it totally counts. You can't say one counts and one doesn't. Because they do count.
Victor Ortiz, a guy who showed himself to be a mental midget.
He was a mental midget before he fought Floyd, but people still prop the fight. So you
Well,
can't,
they were stupid for
but that's my point. If you're going to prop one fight, then don't rip another fight, because you're being disingenuous. I mean, it's easy to rip a guy, but let's be fair across the board. I mean, Khan does have something to lose. He's not fighting a bum. He's fighting a guy who just beat Ruslan Pervadnikov, who most of these fans that are ripping him would have picked Ruslan to knock Khan out. So where's the hypocrisy? You're going to say the guy that Algieri beat would knock out Khan, but that Khan shouldn't fight him. I mean, give me a break. You know, Khan fought Collazo, and he easily beat Collazo. And now Collazo's fighting Thurman, but that's an okay fight. So everybody wants to see Thurman fight Collazo instead of fighting Porter, who is being...
I do not.
I put this fight and the Collazo fight. I put that all in the same category. The only reason I'm interested in Thurman Collazo is, excuse the echo here, is just from a comparison standpoint. Can Thurman do as well against Collazo? Can he do as equally well against Collazo that Khan did? Other than that, you know, it's the same level of fight here, in my opinion.
But Michael, to Sean's credit, Algieri fought Pacquiao, so you could say, let's see if Khan's going to do better than Pacquiao did against Algieri and knock him out.
And that's about the only comparison level here. That's about the only comparison level. It's the same thing.
And then you got to say, well, look, Thurman's fighting Collazo, who Khan just dispatched, and then Kell Brook's fighting Gavin. Come on,
It's all the same. That's why I say it's all the same for me.
This is my biggest gripe, and I'll just clarify for a guy like Sean Newton, since he wants to say people, but I don't feel nothing personal about what he's saying. I just don't like it stylistically.
Hey, it's not just you.
It's
You're
just
talking about it now. Sorry.
It's too many advantages. Amir Khan. It's just too much Khan for me to say, like, this ain't going to be a competitive fight. It's just not going to be a competitive fucking fight, man. It's just how I see it. I'm going to be like a third showcase of Khan dominating, but it's not a style that's going to really affect him. So I want to see Khan get affected. I want to see Khan in a 50-50 fight. And fighting Algieri is not doing it. He had enough tune-ups. Now, Alexander, I even knew then I didn't want to see that fight because I know Alexander don't have the temperament to beat Amir. So I'm looking at the fighters' temperament, their style, how they adjust this. Are they switch fighters? Like, I would like to see Lamont Peterson move up at 147 and rematch Amir Khan. Without hearing testosterone, controversy, shit, and all that stuff, I just want to see a switch fighter like Lamont Peterson fight Amir Khan. That would be a competitive fight. That would be worth talking about. Or a rematch with Danny Garcia to see how Khan faces a real puncher. I mean, it's been a while since Khan fought a puncher. Algieri is not a puncher. Algieri style favors Khan style. He's a back-footed fighter. He waits for you to engage, and then he just likes to throw that jab. And Khan could slip through them punches. Khan could dictate with his jab and his reach, and just make this a offensive onslaught. And you just be like, "Come on, man, just throw in the fucking towel." That's what kind of fight it's gonna be. And then goes on Ramadan. Then we got here Mayweather out his fucking mouth, and then we'll just be like, "Mayweather, please retire, will you? Or just knock this motherfucker out so we don't have to hear him hoe chasing your ass." That's what it is. I'm sorry. This style, I mean, I'm just pissed off about Amir Khan choosing his fight of other guys he could have fought. I would have respected him if he fought Saddam Ali or somebody like that, just coming up with some shit. At least I know a motherfucker will give him a fucking fight. Chris Algieri ain't got nothing in him that says he'll take the fight to you. Nothing. So this fight is a mismatch. And I get it, you say, I don't see nobody saying this and saying that. Where's the consistency, everybody? Well, Amir Khan was talking enough on the YTBC for his name to be mentioned enough to say, yo, we want to see you in some real fights. If you're going to compare yourself to Floyd Mayweather, fight some motherfuckers that we consider threats. Now, I give him credit for Alexander because Alexander is somewhat of a name, but come on, man. I'm talking about styles, man. I'm talking about threats and styles. And I'm sorry, I'm going to let you go and talk, Sean. I said it.
You got something to add, Sean, before we move on?
I was just saying, my comments weren't directly towards Jay Dill. But there's lots of people out there on YouTube and in the boxing world that have the same beliefs as him. And they're the same people that go on YouTube and they talk about what a great fight Thurman Collazo is. And they run about it and talk about how it's so great and justified. But then they rip other fights. You know, they rip Manny Pacquiao against Rios. Just got knocked out, but fighting Rios is so terrible. Marquez fighting Alvarado. He just got beat thoroughly by Bradley, but that's a terrible fight. Khan against Algieri. It's not a terrible fight. Obviously, we know Khan is trying to protect himself by not fighting a power puncher, but everybody's fucking protecting themselves not fighting somebody, you know. So if you're going to call it, be fair across the board. That's just my point. These fights are not bad. They're not one-sided. This fight is no more one-sided than the tons of Al Haymon fights we've seen this year. You know, I mean, Algieri's style is not going to be that easy for Khan to beat because he moves. He's going to have to chase him around the ring. And it's going to make Khan fight differently than he has to normally fight. Obviously, he's a better boxer, or at least he appears to be a better boxer, and he does well against boxers. But we also don't know what Algieri is going to be doing a little different this time now that he has a new trainer. So, you know, I mean, it's a competitive fight. It's an interesting fight. Is it a world beater? No. But, I mean, we know that not every fight is going to be the top two guys in the world matching up. So as long as it's top guys in competitive fights and not one-sided, you know, fights just trying to highlight and showcase guys, I mean, I think we should be happy about it and not always so negative and pushing some agenda. Not saying Jay Dill is pushing an agenda. This is, like I said, referring to other people that are so against it. Like even Brook. I mean, I don't think Brook and Gavin is a great fight, but I'm not going to rip the dude. The dude won a championship off of Porter, who should be fighting Thurman in the next fight, not Broner being drawn down in weight. And he got cut and almost killed, almost bled to death. People underestimate, you know, not underestimate. They don't take into consideration how serious it was. And he came back and fought a solid fighter. Obviously, someone he should beat, but solid. You know, not a bum. A guy who proved himself against, you know, B-level competition, BC-level competition. And now he's fighting another guy that's at that same level. A guy that had a good fight against the guy Thurman just fought and looked terrible against. And then everyone said, well, Thurman, he showed how great of a boxer he is. Yeah, he did. But when you sell yourself as one time and you're going to stop everyone and you knock a guy down and then the rest of the fight you run and move and you never try to knock the guy out again, you know, I mean, it makes me seem that you have a weakness, you know, not a strength. I never thought he couldn't box, you know. So people just love to read things one way and then ignore it the other way. Just be consistent. You know, yes, Floyd beat Manny. Okay, now can we move on and focus on the rest of the fights that are going on in the world?
Oh, well, for those who are disappointed, all I can say is just hang on here for a few weeks, and on June 6th, on the undercard of the Guerrero fight, you get to see Chris, the Nightmare Areola. That's all you need to know.
What I want to say, I don't agree with everything Sean said, obviously, because I don't think that's a good matchup at all. But what I would say is that I noticed that these are the problem with this is Thurman's having a mismatch fight, Brooks having a mismatch fight, GGG had a mismatch fight, and so on and so on and so on. We can go on and on and on. You know, so the thing that I agree with Sean on is the inconsistencies of people. If it's a mismatch, call it out as a mismatch. Don't, you know, it's a mismatch, it's a mismatch. Don't allow mismatches to happen in boxing. That's my problem. But if it's a featured bout where you're showcasing a fighter, I wouldn't say Khan needs to be showcased right now. I think he needed to step up his competition. But for instance, a Deontay Wilder, who they're trying to get out there, so you have him fighting some kind of bum. I'm sorry, but I think he's a bum because I don't know him. He may not be a bum. He may be a great fighter. I just don't know him, right? But you know, I understand sometimes you need to feature fighters. I know this is part of boxing. I know guys fight more than, if you fight more than 2 times a year, you're going to fight some stay busy fights. You're going to fight some feature fights. So I understand that. Did Amir Khan fight more than 2 times this year? No, but maybe he may fight 3 times this year. Maybe he may fight Mayweather in November, because if you think about if you run through all the candidates in your mind, the more experienced candidates are Timothy Bradley and Amir Khan. And if you look, Bradley's fighting Jesse Vargas, ladies and gentlemen, Jesse Vargas, hello, and Amir Khan's fighting Chris Algieri. So I don't know if these are statements. I'm sorry. But they're supposed to win their fights. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
And maybe how they win their fights is more important than that they win it, and that may put them up for the Mayweather draw, the last fight. So
right, and that's my only point. I guess that's one of my points here. There are similar fights in there. All these fights come up. There are similar fights in that regard. But the interest comes in how does each of these fighters look? How do the fighters who are supposed to win, how do they look? How will they perform? And make a comparison between each. Other than that, let's just call it out for what it is. Just call it out for what it is. That's all I'm saying. Let's move on. Since we press for time here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to split the fights between certain people. I'm going to ask a certain person on the panel to talk about one fight, certain person to talk about another fight, so we can move on quickly. I'll go back to you what you need. Talk about the undercard of Algieri. Khan Algieri. Talk about the fight between Bryan Vasquez, Justin Fortuna for the one of the vacant belts at junior lightweight. Talk about that, and then I'm gonna split it up again when we go to the fights happening in England. That big card there. But first, what you need: Vasquez Fortuna. An interesting fight here, as far as I'm concerned. Interesting fight.
Absolutely. Javier Fortuna is a wonderful southpaw. Has a lot of skills. A bit reckless, in my opinion, though. He can get countered and can get hit. But I think his last fight was against Cotto, if I'm not mistaken. Abner Cotto, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, the knockout was interesting. You know, I think Cotto more didn't see the shot as Fortuna was flying in, somewhat recklessly. But I think Fortuna has a lot of potential. He's excellent. You know, he has good defense. He has everything's good about him, but everything's not great. You know, he still has to sharpen up on his skills and so on. You can see he's young and he's green. In terms of Vasquez is a tough guy. You know, he's a come-forward fighter. He can take punishment. I don't think he gets knocked down that easily. So, that's going to be a challenge for Fortuna in the sense that when he hits Vasquez with everything he has, you know, Vasquez is going to keep coming. This is going to be a fight, okay? Fortuna loves to fight, so he's going to get himself involved in a fight. And the question is, I know he's tough. I know he's skilled. The question is, will he have the composure, the mental composure, to go, if this thing has to go the distance, he goes the distance with this guy, because he's knocking out some people. Recently he knocked out a couple of people, and he's predicting a knockout, but I don't know if he knows what he's in for, so we'll see how it turns out.
Hey, I want to move on and talk about, it's a big pay-per-view card happening in England. Excuse me for a second here. London, to be specific, big 5-fight card, I believe it is. The main event of this card is Kell Brook fighting Frankie Gavin. Brook defending his IBF welterweight title. I will go to you on this one, Sean, since you talked about the fight earlier. Thoughts on Brook, Frankie Gavin? To me, I think Brook is the clear favorite. But, you know, Gavin, he has a shot. We can all dream. Your thoughts, Sean?
Well, you know, I mean, this is the same kind of fight we've all been talking about. I mean, it's a fight that it's more interesting to see how he dispatches of him, because we saw Gavin have a tough fight with the Italian guy who Thurman went with. So, you know, it's all that triangular effect, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, we know it doesn't mean that much, but it still sells fights. It's still interesting to see how guys do. You know, historically, it's always been something that happened. So, you know, all these fights like prove just that. You know, what can a guy do when he fights a similar fighter or the same fighter as somebody else at his level, and how can he get rid of him? Even though we all know it has more to do with styles than specifically names. I mean, some guys' styles match up better, and they're going to be more effective, and they're going to finish guys off better. And other guys, they're not going to look as impressive, but they're still going to get the victory. And in the end, as long as you get the win, that's all you need.
I will go to you on this one, J-Dale. Mute your mic, Sean. I'll go to you, J-Dale, or the other fights on this card. Evgeny Gradovich defending his IBF featherweight belt against top contender Lee Selby. Very good fight on paper. Different matchup of styles, a come forward pressure fighter versus a boxer skill. I'm making a prediction right now that I think Selby will beat Gradovich. But Gradovich, given his style, he will be a true tester for Lee Selby. We will see what kind of toughness, what kind of character Lee Selby has. I just think that Selby will come up and come through. Your thoughts on the fight, J. Dill?
I gotta see how Selby takes Gradovich's power, but that'll tell me how he box him. But other than that, I see a high-paced fight where Gradovich is going to keep the pressure on, stay active, but Selby is going to counter him, make him look bad at spurts. But Gradovich will push it to another gear in the second half of the fight. And the fight is going to be very, very close, so it's going down to the trenches. And I just think by Gradovich's activity, he might win a split decision. And that's how I see that fight.
I'll go to you another fight on this card, Gail. As far as I'm concerned, it's the fight of the night, possibly. Jorge Linares facing Kevin Mitchell, mandatory fight for Linares. Linares defending his WBC lightweight belt. Very similar style. Both can box, both can punch, both are vulnerable, both are susceptible, both can be hurt, both have been put down and out, and both can be cut. The thing for me, I look at Linares, I just think he's a higher quality fighter, overall better skill. The speed will be the difference. The only concern for me for Linares, who I will continue to say, he's the fighter that the reason Omar Figueroa went up, yeah, he had trouble making weight, but Figueroa, he wanted none of this guy. I'm gonna continue to believe that. But Linares, to me, with Terrence Crawford moving up, he's possibly the most talented fighter in that division, skill-wise, just all physical standpoint. Can Linares hold up and take a punch against a Mitchell who looked good in his last couple of bouts? But I just think it's a little. He's a step higher in terms of just overall skill set, and the speed for Linares will be the difference as far as I'm concerned. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I do think Linares will have to use his speed. This is a tough one in front of Mitchell, but you know, Linares is, you know, the one coming up in weight, so yeah, that could present an issue. You're also talking about being on the other guy's home turf, you know, his patch of ground in the lion's den, so that can be intimidating for a guy that's not used to it. Linares is not going to have any, you know, a whole lot of fans in his corner during this fight. It could be real tough. It's a great fight. It's probably the best fight to me on the undercard because they are matched so well. They are both vulnerable. I think the guy that's going to win is the guy who takes a chance that pays off. And who that is. I think somebody's going to have to maybe, you know, roll the dice a little bit, especially if it's really tight, really tough going, neither can make any headway, say in the first half of the fight, then someone has to go for broke. See if it pays off. And I think Linares being on Mitchell's turf, it might have to be him.
Interesting. I'm going back to you, Sean, to talk about this final fight. Step-up fight here for Anthony Joshua. Technically, it's, on paper, it's a step-up fight fighting Kevin Johnson. Joshua, he's basically fighting every month, every couple of months, fighting Kevin Johnson, who said he's going to do the job. He's going to stop Anthony Joshua. I look at this, my concern about Joshua, guys who are built like him, Sean, very thick muscle, heavily muscled, tend to historically have issues with stamina. But Joshua, he looks so good from a technical standpoint, from a skill standpoint, and plus, I just don't think Johnson throws enough punches to test the stamina of Johnson. Kevin Johnson always talks a good game for the most part, but will he be active enough in this fight to really test Anthony Joshua? Your thoughts, Sean? Unmute your mic, Sean.
Yep. You know, I have the same concerns that you were saying. I mean, I was thinking that Joshua was getting bigger and looking a little stiff in his last fight. And against a guy of this caliber, I don't see it being an issue. But I'm curious how it's going to be when he steps up to like a higher level and fights the top guys like Fury, Wilder, Klitschko, you know, guys we were talking about earlier. Against a guy like this guy is a competitor, you know, sort of a gatekeeper. Obviously, for the first 3 or 4 rounds, he's going to probably be tough. The guy's sort of like a bowling ball, so he's going to get low, and it's going to be hard to connect with him. But I don't see it going past 7 rounds. I see Joshua stopping him and proving that he's at that level, just above this guy. You know, this guy loses to everybody that's an elite fighter. And, you know, I mean, everybody assumes that Joshua is going to be that kind of fighter, an elite fighter. And people talk about him being moved along slowly. I don't know if that's true at all. I mean, you know, look at the guys Mike Tyson fought on his way up. You know, it was like literally taxi drivers all the way up, 1-round knockouts. You know, they are pushing this guy up because he's on TV, and they need to put him in with a certain level of competition. And he's looked good in every step that he's made. So, you know, I don't think this is going to be a misstep. I assume that in this case, he's going to do what he needs to do, and then it's going to be another step up in his next fight.
And I think we're going to shut the show down and end the show on that note. I want to thank everybody on the panel for joining me this week. Gail Falkenthal of Community Digital News, Jay Dill, Sean Newton joined us live from Taiwan. What You Need joined us live from Trinidad. I'm going to go around the table and get you information for those who want to talk boxing otherwise. Gail Falkenthal of Communities Digital News. For folks who want to talk boxing or anything else, let the folks know where they can find you.
Well, I am at Communities Digital News with my regular column Ringside Seat, and that's COM, C-O-M-M, Digi, D-I-G-I News, comdiginews.com. And I'll have a fantastic Algieri preview right there for you. among other things.
J. Dill, for folks who want to talk boxing or anything else, let the folks know where they can reach you.
Okay, I have different avenues that you can find me from. You can find me on Out of Control Troll 2, Out of Control Troll, J Dill, JDILL. You can also find me on Aftermath Boxing, Come Back to Boxing on Blog Talk Radio. You can find me on here. You can find me on Earl Jarrett's live panel. You can find me on Facebook on off of Face Tweet Boxing, or just friend me on Facebook, John Aristotle. That's how you can find me. And I'm just a hardcore boxing fan in general, and I'm always out here loving to talk about boxing with anybody. So
Yeah,
that's how.
absolutely. I was going to say, reach out to me on your show on Blog Talk Radio. Not on necessarily this one, but on the other Pound for Pound page where I do the news and whatnot. Reach out to me there so I can check out that show.
All right, no doubt, man.
Sean Newton joined us live from Taiwan. For folks who want to talk boxing or anything else, let them know. Folks know where they can reach.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm eating. On this show and on YTBC, you'll see me everywhere. So shout out. I will reply.
What you need for folks who want to talk boxing or anything else, let the folks know where they can find you.
You can find me on YouTube. What You Need, WATTUNEED.
All right, again, thank you all for joining me. For folks who want to find me, y'all know what it is, Brother JR76 on Twitter, personal Twitter account. If you want to find out about the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, again, just check out the blog page, P4P Boxing Report, .wordpress.com. If you look to the right of the page of the blog, you can find links to find the Pound for Pound Boxing Report all over the interwebs, all over social media. The 2G Plus pages, Facebook, YouTube, the Tumblr page, the Podomatic page, the Twitter handle, Pinterest board, RSS feed if you want to subscribe to that, Stitcher Radio if you want to check us out there, the email address, p4pboxingRPT@gmail.com, and maybe, as much as busy as I am, I may do a Flipboard for the Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I'm still pondering that, so you may see something there on Flipboard as well, Flipboard magazine, online magazine. So you can check me out on all that. Again, next week, what we will do a recap of the big London card. Brook, Gavin, Linares, Mitchell, Evgeny, Gradovich, Selby, Anthony Joshua, Kevin Mitchell, as well as talk about the Algieri fight, as well as the Vasquez Javier Fortuna bout. And we will also do a preview of Miguel Cotto, as he will be returning to the ring to fight Daniel Gill. So we will talk about all those fights. And again, for Gail Falcathallo Community Digital News, for J. Dill, for Sean Newton, what you need. I am Michael. This has been another episode of the Pound for Pound Box Report. You guys have a good evening. Good night.
Good night, everyone.